أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله أوله بلا أول كان قبله وآخره بلا آخر يكون بعده الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل وعليه الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الدائم على أعدائهم وغاصبي حقوقهم ومنكري فضائلهم ومناقبهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، قال الله الحكيم في محكمه الكتابه المجيد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال ربي ارجعوني لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت كلا عنها كلمة هو قائلها ومن ورائهم برزق إلى يوم يبعثون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Assalamu alaikum everyone wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Taqabbal Allah amalakum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your fasts, your supplication, your du'as, your recitation of the Quran, your charity, your presence in the masajid and Husainiyas. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you all in the best of rewards. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of your marhumeen and increase their daraja and bring them closer to Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. In the continuation of our discussion, tonight will be the conclusion for the discussion of eschatology, because we said 3 nights we'll be discussing eschatology. We reached the point where the soul enters barzakh. We were talking about, death is nothing but a natural reaction of completion of man's journey in this world, and when his spiritual body is prepared and ready to enter barzakh, he naturally departs this world, just like how a child comes in this world. When the baby is ready to breathe in this world, the lungs are developed, the eyes are ready, the body is fit enough to be and to dwell here, he comes in this world, the child comes in this world. The same way, when the soul reaches to a capacity of perfection, because death is perfection regardless of a Muslim or a non-Muslim. Death is a perfection of the soul, meaning that it reaches to the level of perfection where it is capable of dwelling in the realm of barzakh. As the ayah of the Quran says that, حَتَّى إِذَا جَاءَ أَحَدُهُمُ الْمَوْتِ قَالَ رَبِّي رَجْعِينِ. When that death will come to those evil individuals, they would say that, oh Allah, please, make us go back to this world, and those things which we haven't done, لَعَلَّي أَعْمَلُ صَالِحًا, perhaps we will do the amal salih, which amal salih فِيمَا تَرَكْتُ, the amal which we have tark, which we have not done, which we haven't performed, give us an opportunity so that we go back. However, Allah says no, the time is gone, you have already done what you are supposed to do. And as a matter of fact, if the opportunity be given as well, the person who will come back, he will be the same person. Because we tend to think that, we call for Imam Zaman to come, especially, we will be what we are, whether Imam comes today or tomorrow. A true follower of Imam Zaman is the one, for that person, for that individual, it doesn't make any difference whether Imam be in front of him or whether Imam be in the ghaib. That's a true person. That's a true human being. It doesn't make any difference. Right? I mean, all of us, none of us sitting here haven't experienced a spiritual dream. We all have experienced. Maybe we are in haram, maybe something. Manaviyat. In our spirituality. Anything changed after that for us? You know what I mean? Right? So the point is that that change have to be within, right? And that's the time the Imam will come. We are ready for him. Agha Bahjat, he says, you want to see Imam Zaman? Go, pick up the Quran, open, look at the Quran. That's Imam Zaman. Because there is no difference between Ahl Bayt and Quran. How many times we open Quran? We say, oh Imam, please come, oh Imam, please come, Ajil farajahum, Ajil farajahum. How many times we look at the Quran? How many times we recite? Especially in the month of Ramadan, how much of our time is dedicated to the recitation of the Quran? Where Allah is like pushing us, saying us that, come on, just one verse is one sort of finishing of the whole verse, of the whole Quran, just one verse. Trying to, give us and encourage us, right? How many of us really push ourselves to do so, right? So therefore, whether Imam be Zahir or whether Imam be in Ghaib, we are what we are. That means that we have to keep on changing ourselves. To the extent, as we were talking about, the symbolism of Imam Zaman is actually our aql. When that aql dictates our soul, that means that zuhur have taken place. That's the time the zuhur have taken place. So it doesn't matter whether Imam Zaman present come here, or it doesn't. If the aql is dictating my life, then when Imam will come, definitely I will return. I will be brought back to life. The purpose of my life is fulfilled, right? So here, it's the same thing. If a soul is given the opportunity to go back, still the soul will be doing the same thing that the person was into the habit of, right? Now here, what I wanted to use from this ayah is that it says, وَمِن وَرَائِهِمْ بَرْزَقٌ إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. There will be a barzakh, imaginal world, as some of them translate this as, or some of them they say this as the purgatory world between them, and that's where they will enter. Till when? Till Yawma Yub'asun. Till they come back to this dunya again. Till they are, come back to this world. They will be in this barzakh. This is the only verse that uses the word of barzakh in the Quran. There are two times barzakh have been used, but in terms of barzakh here, that barzakh will be al-taqiyan, that is in Surah Rahman, two seas where it meets, That barzakh is also very powerful. Because what are those two seas that it meets? That's Musa was asked to go there. For what? To meet Khizr. For what? To gain the knowledge of the ghaib. Right? And the knowledge of the ghaib is with the awliya. The knowledge of the ghaib is with insan hai kamil. Right? And those who have wilayat. Khizr have wilayat. Right? That's why he becomes the teacher of Ulul Azm Prophet, who was Musa. But where was he asked to go? Two seas. At the juncture of that. What are these two seas? As we've been discussing, that there's a sea of the spiritual world, the world of spirits, right? And there's the sea of the corporal world. And where Musa is meeting is that barzakh. That's why Khizr wanted to give the knowledge of barzakh to Musa, which Musa did not have the comprehension of that eventually Khizr have to leave, right? So these two seas are symbolized as that. The spiritual world, the alam arwah, and where it meets the alam of the corporal world, this dunya. Where it meets at the barzakhi point. That's the point where it meets. So here, that's a barzakh as well. What is this barzakh? This corporal world, this dunya, right? And then you have the akhirah, which is the spiritual world. In between that is barzakh, right? Barzakh is exactly the same as, death is known as the sister of the sleep. When we sleep, we enter barzakh. We enter a world of, forms which have forms, but it has a spiritual substance to it. The texture, the substance of barzakh is spiritual. It's like imaginal, right? It doesn't mean that imaginary in the sense that it is just imaginary, but it is true, it is real, right? Because the Prophet, he says that, a person die before you die. When a person dies, or when a person dies, he becomes alive. So when he becomes alive, he means that he enters in barzakh and he becomes alive. He will see the true reality of life when he dies. So barzakh is a world of forms, just as we see in the dream. That we will have a body and we will journey. And that is why, if you look at it, there is time in barzakh, right? But this time is not in accordance to the time of this dunya. That's why when you go in a dream, it feels like sometimes it's such a long time, and you wake up and you're like, oh my God, a number of years have passed. Just in what? Maybe you just slept for an hour sometimes. In that 1 hour, you see so many things. You see your whole life in an hour. That's barzakh. That's why, now that 1 hour of sleep in which you maybe remember the 5 minutes of your dream was so either was a nightmare, was very scary, or was it very pleasing, right? Or sometimes it's too pleasing as well, you know what I mean? Yeah. So is it very scary or pleasing? Now this pleasing or scary aspect is so powerful, you felt like a lifetime. Now for those people who have died hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and those people, hypothetically speaking, who will die 2 days before Qiyamah, one may think that, these people who are died thousands of years ago, they are in barzakh for such a long time. These people, he just died for, then after 2 days the Qiyamah happened. That means only 2 days of barzakh? No. The time of barzakh is something else. Even that 1 hour that we remember is such a powerful impact that it plays, right? It even affects our physical body sometimes, right? That barzakh, what we see, the world of forms and imaginations that we see, that is barzakh. So when the soul leaves this body, it enters barzakh. It enters that realm. And there are ayahs of the Quran which talks about barzakh. For example, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يَرْزُقُونَ. In regards to the shuhada, they are on a completely different level of barzakh. That they are high, that they are alive, and they are getting that rizq after they die in that world. What is this world? This is barzakh. And there are riwayat that supports barzakh as well. When the soul dies, there's a hadith from our sixth Imam, Imam Jafar as-Sadiq alayhi salam. When a ruh of a mu'min is taken away and it enters barzakh, when it enters barzakh, the ruh will meet the family members who have left him. And these family members will inquire about their family members. How are they doing on earth? And this soul who have just entered barzakh, he will reply about them. He will answer about them. And then they will ask about some other person. He said, no, he died long time ago. So these souls which are in barzakh, they would say, how come he is not here with us? That means he has fallen down. That means he's somewhere else. So the souls who are there, according to the hadith of the sixth Imam, they meet each other when they enter barzakh. And after this discussion, they would say that, okay, let this soul rest who have just recently entered, because the soul is jet lagging, because it's still connected to the dunya, because it's a journey. The same way in the physical world, when we travel from one place to the other, we are all confused. You know what I mean? The timings, the waking up. So the soul is still have that connection with the physical world. Because when the soul leaves the body, the soul can see the body. We were speaking about the NDE, remember? The soul sees the doctors are operating on him, because the soul have left the body, right? Even in dream, as the Quran says, and gives a parallel, saying that your death is like a dream. The same way when you sleep, your soul travels. When your soul travels, basically you meet different souls as well. And some of these souls, they remember each other, They say Agha Bahjat, one day after finishing his prayers, usually he just walks looking down, leaves the masjid. But he stopped and he asked he waited there so that there was some sisters who came. Among these sisters, there was a sister from Malaysia. And then he gave salams to her. Because the sister from Malaysia said that I saw Agha Bahjat in the dream and he invited me. And then Agha Bahjat was fully aware that she came. So it's a meeting of the souls in the dream. Sayyid Ali Qazi Tabatabai says to Allama Tabatabai that, if you get stuck in any of your, studies, you do certain amal, and then I will come from Barzakh and meet you. And I will teach you. Right? So the souls who are in Barzakh, our marhumin, that's all what we send Fatiha and all that, it reaches them. Now it depends on the strength of the soul, how much that soul in Barzakh is connected to this dunya. The souls of the Ma'sumin, that's why you have Mu'jizat. Because they are very powerful. They are connected to that world and they are also connected to this dunya as well. And that's why they are able to take people and give shafa, do all of that things. Right? Usually the normal souls, the usual souls, they enter that world and they are more focused towards that. They are less concerned, of the dunya because there's so much out there. They are more focused towards that. You see what I mean? So the souls will say that the family members say, let him rest because he just have traveled and he is in that state. So the body remains and the soul sees the body. It's been given ghusl, it's been given kafan, and it's at a state of shock. What's happening? Right? We understand, we are learning these things, right? These are very theoretical reality. It's like you have a VR, you put that on, right? And but you put that on in regards to the jungles of Amazon. Then you are placed in the jungle of Amazon, in real. Although you know everything, but still there's a major difference in that. We will be so scared when it is real than that we are. This is like we are right now, so to speak. Because we are using our imagination from the knowledge that we have. Right? That is real. So the soul will be shocked to see its own body and the soul will travel with the body. Said Muhammad Hussain Tehrani, who I mentioned yesterday, the book he wrote in regards to the interviews of Allama Tabatabai called The Shining Sun. There's a book that he wrote, Ma'at Shanasi. Ma'at Shanasi is like in regards to the eschatology. It's about 10-volume book. In one of the volumes, he writes that as he was doing the ziyarat, he saw a dead body being brought to the haram of Amirul Mu'minin. Because usually that's what they do over there, right? And then he saw a black dog, a beast, sitting on top of this, very ugly looking, on top of the body. As the janaza reaches the gate of Amirul Mu'minin, this animal jumps out. And the body is taken inside because the body is given ghusl and it's pure, is nothing, it's done tawaf and it's brought back. And then it jumps back onto the body. So this is why this animal? Because in this world, this soul, as we were talking about the vegetative soul, the animalistic soul and the intellectual soul, because while in this dunya, the actions of this man was nothing but like a beast, like an animal. And his soul have turned into an animal because of his actions, right? And that's what we were mentioning last night as well, as Shimr, for example, was like a beast. Some of them are like body of a different animal, face of a different animal, because of the actions. And these are the true forms of the souls in Barzakh, right? And as been mentioned, if you help me with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sultan Walad, who was the son of Moulana Rumi, in one of the writings he writes, man is compounded of form and meaning, of satanic and divine. Every instant the houris of paradise and the devils of hell show in their faces from his inward reality, so that it may be seen which vein and which attribute dominate over him. His desire takes him to that form with which he has a greater affinity. If my affinity is with the things that I like, as they say, I will be raised with the one who I love and with who I like. That's why we find, in terms of our tarbiyah, our parents have installed the hubb and love of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. It's very important. Actions are one thing, and that love is something else. That love is installed through tarbiyat of the parents. It's installed through, as our parents have taken us in the majalis of Imam Hussain. We don't understand anything when our parents used to take us, but this going there, this alam, this matam, this marsiya, that love comes into the heart, right? And that stays with us, and we want to stay with them, right? Like, for example, they say at the time when the soul is departing, the Ahlul Bayt arrives to welcome, right? The family members arrive to welcome, right? The Malakul Maut, according to hadith of the Prophet, will sit in front of him to take the soul like an abd, because it's a moment who's entering. It will sit like an abd. Why? Because this moment in this world have been very good. And that's what he's seeing. Those people who hate to die is because they hate their own actions. That's why they hate to die. Imam Hussain was never scared of death. Imam Ali was never scared of death. They were yearning and looking forward for that communion to take place. Because I am afraid of my own action that is transformed in an unconscious way that I become scared of. Right? So I am scared of my own essence. I am scared of myself. And these malaika who come, for example, in a narration in which Hazrat Ibrahim mentions that these angels who come to take the soul of the person is the actions of this person. If he has done good, the malaika will be saying salam, will be welcoming, will be like an abd. But if this person wasn't good in this world, then this malaika will look like a scary individuals to this person, right? And now that's how the soul enters the barzakh. Now, as it says, if you help me with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Another salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, if you fear and flee from death, Rumi says, you fear yourself, O friend. Take heed. It is your own ugly face, not the face of death. Your spirit is like a tree, and death its leaves. In another poetry of Sanai, he says that when they lift the veil of sensory perception from your eyes, if you are an infidel, you will find scorching hell. If a man of faith, the garden. Your heaven and hell are within yourself. Look inside. Right at this very moment, either we are in hell or we are in heaven. What more heavenly place than Ghadir? This is heaven. That's where we are sitting. This very moment is the moment of heaven for us. It's so beautiful. We are always concerned about what's going to come. If this moment is heaven, what's going to come will be heaven too. If this very moment is hell, what's going to come will be hell too. Right? Rumi says, how many children of your thoughts will you see in the grave? It's my own thoughts that I will see in the grave. It's on my own takhayyulat. Right? I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to trouble this guy, I want to cheat this guy. This is what it will come. Al-amalu bin niyah. If my niyat is good and do good to everyone, that is what I will see in the grave. Your good thoughts give birth to youths and huris. Your ugly thoughts give birth to great demons. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam to Abu Basir, he says that when a man dies, 6 faces enter his grave when he dies. Abu Basir is one of the Sahabi who was blind, and also the narrations that we have from Abu Basir are mystical Irfani narrations. Imam Sadiq have a student called Hisham ibn Hakam, theological references from him. Imam Sadiq has a student who is in fiqh, Zurara, theological Islamic law narratives from him. Abu Basir, Irfani, right? Abu Basir is the same one who comes and Imam asks him to jump in the tandoor. That is Abu Basir, right? Abu Basir is the same one who was blind, and he asked, he's a Sahabi, Imam Sadiq was with a Sahabi, and he says, ask people where I am. He was right in front of everybody, and nobody could see. And Abu Basir was coming, who was blind. So Imam Sadiq said, ask him. And Abu Basir says, he's blind. The people who have eyes cannot see you. He's a blind man, you are asking him. So Abu Basir comes, and he asks him, where is Imam Sadiq? He says, I thought I am blind. Imam is right here. So you don't need this eye to see the Imam. Imam is in occultation, but we don't need this eye. This is the eye of the heart. Right? Imam is present, is here. We just have to have that connection, with the Imam. 6 faces. One, very briefly, very quickly, because we are talking about barzakh. One right in the front, which is your fasting, which will act like a shield and a helper for you in barzakh, from the evil and demons of barzakh. The one on the right, which is your prayers, your salat. The one on the left, which is your charity and zakat. The one at the feet is the help that you have provided to people. Whether this help be connecting people, whether this help be just listening to their problem, whether this help be an advice or something, And the one at the back is your hajj and ziyarat. The one at your head, which is like a crown, a taj, a crown, and that is the wilayat of Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. As Rumi says that you are your thought, brother. The rest of you is bones and fiber. If you think of roses, you are a rose garden. If you think of thorns, you are fuel for the furnace. Right? So it all goes back to who I am. Right? That yaqeen, that certainty, that beauty have to come within me. And that's what I will face, right, in the hereafter. Now here, beautifully, those who do the ta'wil of the Quran. There is tafsir of the Quran in the exegesis, in the sciences of exegesis, in the discipline of tafsir. There is ta'wil and there is tafsir, right? Ulum al-Quran itself is a discipline in itself, right? Which kind of looks into compilation of the Quran, looks into what is surah, what is chapter, these names, 7 different types of recitation that exist in the past at the time of the Prophet, right? And only one remain after all of the recitation, and that recitation that we have today, which is remain, is the recitation of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This is proven. This is like authentically proven in the sources of all Islamic sources, right? And this recitation that we recite, it cannot be separated, no matter what, right? Because there were 7 different recitations and reciters. All of the other 6 vanished, but the only one that remained in the course of history is the recitation of Amirul Mu'mineen. It could be recited by other Ahl Sunnah, sects, but still is a recitation of, Amirul Mu'mineen that has remained. And how it cannot be? Ali wal ma'al haq wal haq wal ma'al Ali. Ali is with the Quran and Quran is with Ali, right? So, ta'wil means that you try to look at the esoteric meanings of the verses of the Quran. Because Quran has 70 batn according to the 5th Imam. 70 inner folds, inner meanings of it, right? And ta'wil is that. Now, look at how beautifully the ta'wil of these verses, which is talking about qiyamah, eschatology, what will happen in the hereafter, right? But it is actually, that is qiyamat kubra, which is greater eschatology or greater qiyamah. And there is a lesser qiyamah, which is actually the death itself. A person dying is nothing but qiyamah, right? And that is, for example, it says that the body of the individual is ta'bir as mountains, right? The earth corresponds to the body, the earth. When the Quran is talking about the earth, it is actually the body of man. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. This is, we think that it is about Qiyamah. إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. But it is actually to the body that is going through in the grave. Right? The earth will be shaken with mighty shaking when the bones are separated from flesh. And that is وَحُمَلَتِ الْأَرْضُ وَالْجِبَالِ فَدُكَّةٍ دَكَّةٍ. You know, we may think that, oh, this is Allah is talking about the hereafter. No, it is actually when, you know, when the bones are separated from the flesh in the grave. That's lesser qiyamah happening, right? Or, for example, the earth and the mountains will be lifted up and crushed in a single blow. This is happening over there. However, this is pointing out to what the body is going through in the grave, right? And then, when the bones decay, it talks about وَإِذَا الْجِبَالٌ نُسِقَتْ. In chapter number 77, verse number 10, when the bones decay, it is actually the mountains, you know, إِذَا الْجِبَالٌ نُسِقَتْ. The mountains will be scattered like ashes. When your heart is darkened through death, إِذَا الشَّمْسُ كُوِّرَتْ. The sun will be put off. As we say in the Qiyamah, the sun will go off. It's actually the heart will be darkened. There's a lesser Qiyamah happening. You know, there's Qiyamat al-Sughra. So all of these verses is being ta'wil, has given the esoteric meaning of what will happen here. Not that we have to wait till that time it will happen. It will happen here only, right? When your hearing, sight and other senses cease to work, the stars will be thrown down. You know, ayah of the Quran, right? When your brain splits, the sky will be split asunder. إِذَا السَّمَاءُ انشَقَّتْ. When the brain will split, you know, when the body start to decompose. The instant you die, the lesser resurrection will take place for you. Nevertheless, you will not miss anything from the greater resurrection. Yeah. Everything has happened here. You know, we think about Qiyamah or it will happen like this. No, it's right here, right? Baba Tahir Oriyan was a great poet, right? And he was an arif, a mystic. I will read a paragraph from him. However, why he's known as Oriyan? Oriyan means naked. You know, his title is naked. Because Baba Tahir Oriyan was a simpleton, and he was studying in the seminary, but he loved irfan, you know. He loved philosophy, he loved mysticism, but he did not have that capacity, intellectual capacity to comprehend as such. So, you know, his friends, to make fun of him, says, you know, it was winter as well, you know, up north, it was winter as well in Iran. They said that, okay, you know, Baba Tahir, take your clothes off and jump into this hawd, the pond that is there in the courtyard usually, right, to make wudu, and then you will become arif. So he bichare, you know, poor thing, you know, he thought that, really? He said, yes. So he takes his clothes off and he jumps into the water and he comes out reciting poetry. Because he had that intention, that desire. That's what is needed for us. And that will do the magic. Yes, we may not have time for philosophy, and you know, philosophy is not everyone's cup of tea, or mysticism as such. But if we yearn to understand Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, if we have that love of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, and we want to be with them, it will happen. Because of that sincerity. Baba Tahir was sincere. You know, he wanted that knowledge and that science of Tawheed. And it happened. Allah gave him that. And that's why when we sit here, we recite Dua Iftitah, we recite Dua Kumail, Munajat Shabaniya. Arabic is not my language. It's not my mother tongue. I don't understand anything Arabic as such. But if I have the intention, in a course of time, naturally I'm inspired of the meanings that is there. If you ask me what it is, I may not know. I may have read the translation. But once that sound comes, as we were talking about sound yesterday and music, sound have an effect on the soul. That's why there's so much of importance when it's talking about, Daleen and, Quran, not Quran like how Hyderabadi says, right? Quran, Quran, right? Is a qaf, not kha. Or tariq. When it comes to tariq, they say tariq. Right? So because of that sound. And sound have an effect on the soul. In Zen Buddhism as well, sound plays a major role. In Hinduism, the mantras that they recite, the sound plays a role on the soul. The recitation of the Quran. Many people who are non-Muslims, but they are moved by the sound that it gives. It has a very powerful effect, right? So therefore, it's very important that sound have that effect. Now here Baba Tahir, Oriyan, he became a poet, he recited poetry, and he mentions this: people are now standing on the path, though they are unaware of the path. For in the eyes of the Urafa, this world is the next world. This very world is the next world. They are standing on the path. In the hereafter, there will be a path, a balance, a garden and fire. There will be a path, a balance, a garden and fire. The path of the Urafa in this world is their way, which is sharper than a sword. Their path of the Urafa is sharper than a sword. Amirul Mu'mineen hadith, when they ask, what is Sirat-e-Mustaqim? Amirul Mu'mineen says, Sirat-e-Mustaqim. When we say, Ihdina Sirat-al-Mustaqim, Sirat-e-Mustaqim is actually sharper than the edge of a sword, thinner than hair. One time a Moulana was reciting Majlis, and he was saying, the Sirat-e-Mustaqim is thinner than hair, the path, and sharper than the edge of a sword. And this is what Pul-e-Sirat is. Then somebody stood up and said, well, say it's no path. It's not a path. Thinner than hair. What is this? Right? For the Urafa, he's saying that this very path that we are on in this earth, in this world, is nothing but that sirat. It's thinner. It's very difficult. It's very difficult for many of us to stop ourselves at night before sleeping, passing the pages of Instagram. It's very difficult. We can't sleep unless we have to look at, in order that we sleep, we have to look at few posts of Instagram, one after the other, and we don't know where these, posts takes us, right? It's not easy. And this becomes a habit, unfortunately. There's the illnesses of the soul. That's how it comes about. And to get rid of these illnesses, we talk about astaghfar. We talk about astaghfar. Do astaghfar, astaghfar. But first we have to find the source. Why am I committing this in order for astaghfar? Right? Why am I on this app? Maybe I need to get married. Right? Okay, fix that. Instead of doing astaghfar for the sins that I'm perhaps committing. We need to take care of the reason why I'm committing that sin. Right? So it's very important. And that's what, Hazrat Amir says, that meaning of astaghfar means that you thoroughly, with all intention that you will not commit again, you do astaghfar. If I haven't resolved that problem that I have, if I have a problem, Tylenol will do nothing. I have to take antibiotics to get rid of that. Because it's going to keep on coming back. If I keep on doing astaghfar, and don't take the antibiotic, that problem that I have in my nafs, whatever that problem may be, right? I need to resolve that problem. Maybe the problem is because of jealousy. I'm a jealous person. Why am I jealous? Because I'm insecure. Because I'm insecure, I try to do this or that or the other. So I need to look at myself, right? So Baba Tahir says the path, the sirat itself is sharper than a sword, which echoes Amirul Mu'mineen. Their balance are their hearts, which are the best of all balances. Their balances are their hearts, which are the best of all balances. Their garden is the turning of their hearts towards Allah. And their fire is the turning of their hearts away from Him. Ilahi man li ghayruk. Oh Allah, if you put me in the hellfire, I will announce that I am your lover. Right? Because the heart loves Allah. It just cannot be separated from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Qiyamah, which, the Urafa, the eschatology which they talk about, it's right here. How many children of you? Yeah, we finished that share of Rumi. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So therefore, the lesser resurrection, that takes place here. And then there is no greater resurrection. There's a microcosmic eschatology that takes place, which we have all discussed, and there's macrocosmic, which is like, which we all believe in, that, the sun will be put off, and the Gog and Magog, and I don't know, all of these things will happen. The Zuhur will happen after the Zuhur, the Dajjal will come, so on and so forth. These are the different stages that will take place when it will take place. The Zuhur will happen, but the Zuhur should happen here, the Aql, right? When that happens, then after that, everything is resolved. There's a utopia on earth as our body, comparison to, the ta'wil, right? Now, we do have narrations which kind of depicts and talk about after the soul is taken to the grave and put in the grave, which is barzakh once again, and the questioning of the grave of Munkir and Nakir. These two very angels depends on whether they become Munkir or Nakir, or whether they become, Bashir or Nadir. These two angels that are there. Or, for example, first person or the first being that comes into the grave, according to the narration of the fourth Imam, and that is Roman. In the grave, the first person would come is an angel, which is known as Roman. And in order to, make the file for the Munkir and Nakir to come, right? He will, and as the soul is so much gone through so much, it tends to lose memory, because usually when something happens, the soul loses memory, right? And when the soul loses memory, Roman reminds him. He's a reminder of that all recollections that the soul have done in the dunya, for the Munkir and Nakir to come, and then he has to answer, right? And when the soul remembers everything and sees everything, and all of these things is recorded, and the Quran says that it's put in a locket and it's placed on the neck of this person who have died, right? Everything is in there, which will be open on the Day of Judgment, right? A Day of Judgment where they will be standing up in the grave, هَذَا مَا بَعْدَ الرَّحْمَنُ وَصَدَقَ الْمُرْسَلُونَ. That's a greater qiyamah that will happen when they will come out. There will be the rain of resurrection. There will be rain, and all of the body parts which have been scattered will be brought down to the grave, and then in that laboratory, the body will be, resurrected and been brought up, and everybody will be sitting on the grave and will be saying, هَذَا مَا وَعَدَ الرَّحْمَنُ وَصَدَقَ الْمُرْسَلُونَ. And then, the day which they will be separated, the good souls, the good, bodies and souls will be separated with the evil, because they may be in the same graveyard, so on and so forth. All of these things are kind of mentioned in the narratives and narrations that are to come. But what is for us is to take is that our action is our amal. And obviously, there are many riwayat which tends to, help us to prepare and to have light in our grave, such as salawat. They say one of the greatest thing is that will help us is salawat, recitation of salawat. One of the greatest thing that will help would be doing good to the parents. One of the most very powerful impact that one would have would come to the Savior, whether that be in this dunya or in the hereafter as well. When a person comes to the Prophet and complains of the problems, he says, go do good to your parents. The person says they died, and he said, go to their grave. He said, grave, it's in a different city. Or just go outside, put your hand on the earth, imagine that's the grave of the parents, and recite Fatiha for them, right? So when the love, care, in this world with the parents is so powerful impact, imagine how it would be in the hereafter, right? And finally, in regards to some of the connection of the soul in this dunya, that is something that has been analyzed, and it's true. That's why you have the grave of a person where we go and pray, because the soul of that person is connected to that chamber wherever that person have been buried, and that is where he been resurrected from, and he will always be connected in this dunya to that point. Because the soul is all encompassing the physical world. Because soul is much powerful than the physical world. So as it encompasses the whole world, the point of meeting of that soul to this physical world is this grave. It's like everything going into that point of his grave. That's where we go, we pray, we recite Fatiha, we place the hand, we water that place as being very symbolic. We pay respect to that chamber, that place where we go recite Fatiha. So there's a connection of the soul with that body. There's a connection of the soul with those things that the soul liked. And this is one of the reasons why we always tend to, when I was young, I would always ask that, what is this Fatiha? It's an Indian thing, It's a traditional thing that you do Fatiha on, mithai and biryani and this. The soul will not eat that. That's what we used to think. However, it's not an Indian and Pakistani tradition. It comes from Turkey. It's a Turkish and Sufi tradition. It's a, Orafa, Irfani tradition, that they will put the food and recite. And this also exists in Far Eastern religions as well, that they have food and they give food. But yes, that's true. The soul will not. However, there is a relationship of the soul with that food, with that smell, with that taste. Taste is immaterial. Smell is, fragrance is immaterial, which is coming from the physical. As we spoke about physical world, the corporal world is important. For what? For the imagination. This sensory world gives me the power, gives my intellect and aql to imagine. And this is, my barzakh is nothing but my world created by my imagination. It's my own world that I have created in barzakh. Through what? Through my imagination. What is love? It is through my imagination. The love of Imam Hussein is through the imagination. If the physical world wasn't there, it will not instigate or ignite that love. You know what I mean? So there is a relationship of the things that a person like. That's why they say, give clothing as charity, so that this becomes a covering for the soul in barzakh. There may be certain sins that the person have, which he wants to cover, which he does not want to show to others, because over there's no hijab. Everybody is seeing each other. So give clothing as charity, so that this will come in a form of covering, because there's a relationship of the physical world with that barzakhi world, right? So that's why it's been asked that, to perform these things, and the things that the soul likes in this dunya, that food is being distributed, because there's a relationship of that. There's a spirit and the soul have a relationship, not the physical one. Because even in the realm of barzakh, there is taste, there are forms, right? The Quran talks about it, teen and zaytun and anar and all of these things. These are physical things and they have taste, right? They taste to it. And that's why the people in the Jannah will say, oh, we have tasted this. It's very similar to what we have tasted before, what we have seen before. It's a greater version there. So therefore, when we are distributing things which they like in this dunya, we are comforting that soul in barzakh, because they are used to these things. They have adapted to that taste, to that understanding. And the best of all, obviously, as they say, is the love of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, is the majalis, is zikr of salawat, is the astaghfar that we perform. And all of these things, they go to the souls in barzakh, to our marhumin, in a form of gifts. The way we like to take gifts in this dunya, the same way when we send a salawat, Allama Tabatabai says that you have no clue and no idea what one salawat can do for a marhum. It is very powerful, the effect of salawat. That's why all of our ulama, Bahjat, would say, this problem is recite salawat. This problem, do astaghfar. Astaghfar salawat, astaghfar salawat. These are very powerful tools that will come to our aid. Now, as tonight as well, a few zikr musibat of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam, as they say that, there was a lady who would recite Ziyarat-e-Waris every Thursday. And when she was buried, because of her recitation of the Ziyarat-e-Waris, was so powerful that the whole graveyard, the whole barzakh became, illuminating with light when she was buried there, right? So that relationship with Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, and the swiftest and the quickest vehicle, is the Masayib of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. That how much they have gone through, The zikr of musibat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is no less. Allama Shustari says that he had a dream, and he had a dream in which he saw a lady, and she was mentioning that, "Oh Allama, you don't recite the musibat of Hussein." Allama says, "No, I recite all of Maqtal, as it's mustahab to recite the whole Maqtal on the day of Ashura." He says that I recite all of Maqtal. This lady says, "No, that was not the greatest musibat of Hussein. The greatest musibat of Hussein was when Hussein was departing and there was Sakina not allowing Hussein to go." Because the narrations reports that Hussein was about to leave, the Zuljana was not moving forward. And Hussein speaks to Zuljana, says, "Oh Zuljana, I promise this is the last ride that you will go. And this ride is a ride that will go but will never return, oh Zuljana." But this horse is saying something, pointing out towards his feet. And when Hussein looks at it, he says, "Little Sakina holding the feet of Zuljana and not allowing it to go." Hussein gets down from the steed, picks up the little girl, because there was a very strong relationship of Imam Hussein and Sakina. This relationship was very similar to the relationship of Rasulullah and Fatima Zahra. The type of relationship was. So here Hussein stops and gets down from the steed, picks up the little girl and says that, "Oh Sakina, you have to be patient after me." And Sakina says, "Oh Baba, I always slept on your chest. Allow me that I sleep for a few minutes before you go." Then Sakina sleeps and she wakes up very quickly and she says, "Oh Baba, I'm not going to stop you anymore." Why, Sakina? Because Rasulullah came in my dream and saying, "Oh, don't stop Hussein. Amirul Mu'mineen was there. My grandfather was there. I will not stop you. However, oh Father, before you go, can you put your hand on my head the same way as you put on the hands of the children of Muslim ibn Aqil when that news came and you said to me that, 'Oh Baba, why are you so kind towards the children of Muslim ibn Aqil?' You said that they are yatim. Now you're saying that, 'Oh Sakina, be patient, you will be yatim.' Can you place the hand of yatimi on my head before you?" This was very difficult for Hussein. And that's why it says that after the massacre of Karbala, when Imam Hussein was killed, Sakina went out of the tents looking for the body of Hussein. And the Ravi says that Zainab was looking for Sakina, she couldn't find, and then finally when she found Sakina on the chest of Hussein sleeping. And then Sakina says that, "How did you find the body of Hussein, of your father?" He says, "I was looking, and then all of a sudden hands were raised." He says, "Ilayya, Ilayya, ya Sakina, come to me, my Sakina." That's why in order to give pain to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, they troubled Hazrat Sakina so much. They used to slap Hazrat Sakina so much, right? One of the riwayat says that Imam Hussein have given Sakina a special zikr that when you are in trouble, recite this zikr. And that was the zikr of Ya Zahra, Ya Zahra. And once Sakina was lost in the wilderness, she recited the zikr, the caravan had left, and then she saw a lady appeared, and then she had a dialogue with the lady, and then this lady removed the veil, and this lady said, "Oh, now I realize why everybody say I resemble my grandmother." Because the wounds on the face of Zahra were the wounds on the face of Sakina. Allah lanatullah ala qawm az-zalimin sayalamu alladhina zalamu ayya munqalibin yanqalibun. بفاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها وسر المستودع فيها بعدد ما أحاط به بمولاتي فاطمة الزهراء سلام الله عليها. يا الله 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 يا رحمن يا رحيم يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك يا قاضي الحاجات يا كافي المهمات إنك على كل شيء قدير. رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة لأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات, especially for all of your marhumin and also for one of the marhumin Brother Mehdi's uncle who passed away, Agha Murtuza Zaidi ibn Hamid Ali Zaidi. Al-Fatiha ma salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. صلى على محمد وعلى محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا نبي الله، السلام عليك يا خير خلق الله وخاتم النبيين، السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى أم المؤمنين، السلام عليك يا أبا محمد حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وتسة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. All together. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين، بالخصوص سيدي ومولاي أبو الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين وأختك زينب وأم كلثوم وبنتك رقية وسكينة ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء يا علي بن موسى الرضا، كن شفينا وشفي والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا صاحب الزمان، السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله لك فرج وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك والمستشهدين بين يديك ورحمة الله وبركاته.